Everybody, and welcome to Kaffee and Kuchen with Internationals. Today I am sitting here with Hannah. I'm one of your co-hosts, Anne Lassay, and just to introduce Hannah a little bit, she is a Canadian content creator and community builder based in Hamburg, and she's got 8 years of experience in event marketing across Europe and 4 years experience as a content creator. And you might know her from Instagram. And yeah, she's built a loyal audience through funny, honest takes on expat life in Germany, travel tips, hidden local gems, and she's also the founder of the BBA community, which is a network of international women navigating life abroad. Hannah, I'm so happy to have you here. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit to our audience?
So thank you for the introduction. You covered already a lot. I'm happy to be on this podcast. You have come to many of BBA's events and been so supportive of our community and of everything. So happy to support you back. But yes, I've been a content creator now for 4+ years. With BBA and stuff, that's been since 2018, but it's really grown in 2020 until now. So it's really been great to see the community involved and everything. And I'm love to be a content creator that doesn't shy away from being close to her community. I like to be a content creator that shows up and makes myself available and not hide behind a screen the whole time. So happy to be here.
I love that. And I think that's what makes your community so powerful, is that people actually know you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really good.
I don't like to pretend I'm like better or better than everyone because I have more followers. I'm just also just a girl. No, I'm kidding. I'm just also a woman living in Germany that happen to have a lot of followers, but I don't see myself like on a different level than anyone else. And that's why I don't feel like any shame like coming to my events or organizing events or being the person who does the check-in and stuff like this, because I'm just try to be like everyone else.
Yeah, yeah, we're all human. Yeah. And I think you tell us how long you've been in Germany.
I've been in Germany for 10+ years now. I came in 2014 and from my ex-boyfriend. And then, yeah, I wanted to only be here for 3 or 4 years, but somehow now it's 10.
I feel like that's a familiar story. It's often like we come with expectations around how long we're going to stay, and then we
Mm.
realize the process, right, of actually moving here and getting established is a bigger deal than what we anticipate. And then to leave straight away, it just feels too short.
Exactly. I think when my ex-boyfriend and I broke up, I wasn't expecting to stay here for so long, but I just said to myself, no, like I'll try it for 2 years and, prove to myself that I can be here alone without a man. And that worked really well. But then the pandemic happened, and then I kind of got stuck here. And then, yeah, you go about the dating apps. Now I'm with a new German man. So now I'm here even longer.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we might come back to that. But I am interested just to help the audience get to know you a little bit better before we dive into some of the other questions I've got. What motivates you in your life and your work?
Um, it's a funny question because people may think, oh, like a lot of times people say, oh, Hannah, your videos, you just look so natural and you do this so well and everything. And it's not because I'm a trained content creator or a trained actress or anything like this, but I always had a love for arts and music and theater and culture and travel. And so actually everything came together now as a content creator and community builder. I studied tourism and events in university, and also I was in like dance academy and musical theater academy in high school. Never professionally, but it gave me a good background between everything that I do to have like a kind of the right personality for a camera and also the event management and business side of things. So yeah, that's kind of what motivates me because it's actually everything I love to do packaged together.
Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like you're driven a lot by passion and just following what is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was in the corporate world for 7 years as a global event manager, and I did love that job. That job was amazing. I got to fly around all around Europe, putting on big events. I got to stay in nice hotels and everything like that. But it was fulfilling for a certain period, but then it became like not as fulfilling anymore. And I think having the pandemic happen and me getting TikTok and making just these fun videos really showed that there was a side that was missing, was my creative, like theater side and stuff like this. And so that's what just motivated me to keep on going. Actually, in high school, I don't know if we also had yearbooks, but we had like yearbook and we had the most likely to section. And I was from a really small town in Canada, and I think I don't know what grade it was, but maybe it was grade 7 or 8, most likely to be famous. And then I kind of was always like, I remember getting that and I was like, oh, maybe that will happen someday. But then I had it in my head when I was, in the corporate world and stuff. And I was like, it wasn't meant to happen. It wasn't meant to like fulfill my dreams as like an actress or something like that. But it's okay. But I think it was always in the back of my head that I wanted not fame, but I wanted a stage because I always loved acting and everything like this. So that's how it kind of came to be.
Yeah, awesome. And I think like what you just described there was following your passions and then like feeling into where something was missing and then asking yourself, okay, well, how can I fulfill that thing that's missing, which you managed to do. But then I think there's another like massive leap between doing what makes fun and then doing something that actually can sustain a living.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if you feel comfortable talking about that, like that process of like moving towards following your passions to actually making it your life.
Yeah, so I didn't expect it to become something that I could depend on with my income. It was always like a side thing. Um, when I was in corporate world, like I had my main job, then I had like the content creation and stuff as a side thing, and it was always really scary to think how could I do this full time because it's not that consistent. But now when I was became fully self-employed, I was freelance in events for a few clients, and I still do that. It's like a bit of a steady income, but now I'm able to basically sustain myself on the money I earn from content creation, mainly. And of course, BBA stuff is still very much volunteer work when you calculate how many hours it takes to moderate the community and plan the events, everything like that. But it's slowly starting to get a little bit of income, at least pay us like something like a mini job every month, which is definitely way more work than it costs, like time it costs, but we're able to make something a little bit more sustainable now.
Yeah, that's awesome because you put so much effort into that community.
Yeah, it's effort, but it also pays back in many ways. I mean, some of the girls who help in the admin chat, like we are always texting all times of night, just with funny ideas and sending each other memes. And we all know that it's a passion project, and it will be great one day if it pays off. But we also have so much fun doing it.
Mm. I feel like that's a theme that's coming through is I don't know, like I think if you focus too much on the end outcome, if your aim is to earn a living, then you're kind of missing a massive part, which is the fun. And I feel like that kind of has to come first in order to actually meet that goal of like making a life from this thing. I don't know if you feel the same.
Yeah, I think when it comes to any starting your own business, like it's not a joke. Like if you have your own business, you work 24/7, but you don't feel like you're working. Like for me, like sitting on the couch in front of Netflix and like editing some videos, yes, that's technically work, but this is also like I enjoy doing it. It's for me better than just aimlessly scrolling on my phone. It's like productive still, but sometimes, yeah, it can get really tiring because you're never really taking a vacation, but also I like to think that I have a lot of flexibility and everything in my job now, and I don't work normal hours like a normal corporate person. So sometimes if I'm like, I want to start work at 12 today, and then I start work at 12, but I'm editing or doing admin stuff until like 8 or 9, for me, it's like the same. But other people might look at it like, why are you working on the couch? I don't know. That's just how I feel like doing it. Like doing accounting in front of Netflix is like my favorite thing ever.
Love it. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. So just bringing it back to like the journey to Germany, and this experience, because our audience are here because they're on this journey themselves. They're either thinking about coming to Germany, they're here already, and they're looking to understand other people's experiences. And so I wonder if you can just think about when you first arrived, all those 10 years ago,
Mhm.
and what was that experience like for you, that arrival?
Well, I think I had two arrivals in a way because I came to Germany actually in 2013 the first time, and I had only met my previous boyfriend one time. At a music festival, and we stayed in touch and did long distance for almost 6 months. And then I said to him, "Oh, you know what? I want to try study abroad, and this is the perfect opportunity. We can try dating, and I'll go to Cologne Business School and finish my degree, fulfill some credits for my tourism degree." So it worked out really nicely. So I had like two entries actually. So that was I came to Hamburg in 2013, actually with my best friend, because coincidentally she had a boyfriend at the time that was also, he was not German, but he was Portuguese, and he was trying to move to Hamburg. So we actually came together, and it didn't work out with my best friend and her partner at the time. They actually ended up moving to Canada together. So then my whole plan was like, oh, I'll move to Germany with my best friend, with her boyfriend. It's gonna be like happily ever after. But then it ended up being like quickly disappointed and have to be here alone. But yeah, I was in Cologne by myself actually for 6 months. I lived in like a shared flat. I saw my boyfriend at the time um, every second week or something like this. So I did have to learn how to be independent pretty quickly, and I think that can be a bit different than some other people's stories because I did move for a man kind of, but I slowly like tested the waters first before I like made the jump. But I remember being in my VG and coming out and be like, I had to meet a friend in town or some other woman who was in my study program. She was okay, meet me in like Cologne, something Platz or whatever like this. And it was my first time ever like being alone in Europe, having to take the train by myself, the bus by myself, so scared. And I got like out of my VG and like went to the bus stop, and I stood at the bus stop and I was looking at the sign, like all in German. I was like, okay, I hope this is going the right direction. I remember asking some young German guy, and he spoke English. I was so excited. Then I had to change trains, and then I had to ask them, and like the guy didn't speak English, and I was like, oh god, like where am I? I eventually found my way, and this was the time, like I don't even know. We had iPhones back then, but it wasn't as like Google Maps and everything wasn't as sophisticated as it is now, and so you had to rely on other transport apps to figure out. There wasn't like AI, but it was really really scary. But I remember just so many little moments like when I was coming back from Lidl and I had gotten yogurt and stuff like this, and I was walking home and the yogurt like exploded in my bag and it was like all over the street, and I remember some like German lady being like trying to help me and stuff, and I was just so embarrassed. And those just like the little moments I first remember from moving to Germany alone. But it went by really quickly in Cologne, and it worked out with my ex boyfriend and I. And then I came back officially in 2014, where I moved officially to Hamburg. So you could say I've like, even when I think how much longer I've been here, is it feels even longer because I had that first little like test.
Mm.
But when I came in 2014, it was like I didn't really know what I was doing. Let's just say that it was 24, I think, and I was just like, yeah, sure, let's just move to Europe with the guy. I'll find a job. I'll get a visa. Everything will be fine. But I think back to my previous self, it was like a very very unplanned thing. It was just kind of like, yeah, I'll move in with my boyfriend. We'll be good. We'll get married. I'll get a visa. Everything will be fine. La di da di da. But yeah, as I quickly learned, it didn't wasn't so easy.
Yeah, so many challenges.
Yeah.
My head's stuck on the yogurt explosion. Why are the lids so
That's
like
what I
they
mean. It was like
are?
a culture shock because, like, in Canada, you have like the plastic lid on top. I
Yeah,
know
New
it's more
Zealand.
waste, and Germany is like little, like they like to like have a little bit less waste, but those things of yogurt, which is this thin aluminum thing. They're always exploding. So it happened to me more than once actually. But I
Same,
just
it's happened to me too.
it's like these stupid yogurt things, and they just ruin everything in your bag, and it smells, and it's like on my pants, and I was just like, ah.
Yeah, that's frustrating. It's interesting. Like, I feel like that's one of those things that you could just never have predicted that you would have to deal with, because you take something for granted. It is how it is at home.
Yeah.
And it's,
And
yeah,
it's
there's little
surprising they're
unexpected.
so unsturdy because I mean everyone is walking with their groceries here, in this big tote bag stuffed with stuff. Like of course they're going to explode. In Canada we have a car and it's not like so many dangerous, points. But yeah, I hate these yogurt things so much.
Yeah, I feel you. Like you talk about a whole lot of little learnings, and like that you came here and it wasn't planned and you kind of had to figure your way out as you went along. What are some of those key things that you learned? Like, how did it benefit you as a person having to navigate all of this?
I'm not sure if you've seen this like viral Instagram quote. I think a lot of people who live abroad have like reposted the quote with like their own content, but it's like, don't mess with people who moved abroad when in their 20s, like they had to figure out so much shit by themselves, like in a second language, or like deal with bureaucracy and visas and opening bank accounts and stuff that not many young people have to deal with because you still heavily rely on your family, or you have so much of knowledge base of how things are working in your home country. So it definitely made me grow up really fast, I think. um, Things like having to go to the Ausländer Behörde and try to explain your situation with someone in their second language, or even you couldn't even speak it that well, but you had to bring always someone who had to be heavily relying on other people to help you. It takes a lot of trust too, and this makes you quite vulnerable because you can't do everything by yourself. But it made me, I think, in many ways, really resilient, and not just in the first year of living in Germany, but just everything that's happened to me here, like getting kicked out of the country, going through a bad breakup in the country, and having to manage mostly everything alone or with my friends. And of course, my family's on the other side of Canada. Definitely, as my mom always says, was a lot of character building. And I think to myself, if I had stayed in Canada, what kind of character building would have I had? It would have been a lot easier. I'm sure, I would have probably, I like to think like wherever I've been, I probably would have been as motivated and successful. I don't think it's definitely necessarily like Germany that made me successful, but it's just like a personality type, I guess. But I think I'm happy the way all my things worked out to where how because it kind of made me where I am now.
Yeah, I think like it takes a certain personality to be able to step into unknown and risk and to
Mhm.
put themselves out there and to just trust that it's going to be okay and deal with whatever happens. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
both of my parents were quite adventurous, I think, in different ways. Like my dad was backpacking around Europe in the 70s, and I heard lots of stories of him, like backpacking, sleeping on benches, like surviving on like, I don't know, 10 euros for a whole week and stuff. And my mom, she's a biologist and ecologist, and she would, in her young 30s, be flying out into the middle of the forest and like sleeping intense. And so I had both parents who are very like, they both were self-employed now and had these adventurous young adulthood. So I think I heard all these stories and I was like, okay, like it's my turn to do something crazy. And that's probably how it manifested, even though it wasn't like subconsciously that's how, but I think more this is, how it all became to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. You had the role model. But I imagine still felt like at the time, even though you've seen it, like that it was still felt like a risk at times and that it was hard to kind of step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I think when I think about moving to Germany, like when I was young and stuff like that, I don't think I was ever really scared or had much anxiety. I was just kind of young and stupid in a way that you just don't think about things as much. You're just like, okay, sounds fun, let's do it. Like you don't think about the effects it had on my family, like the effects it had on my friends, like leaving my family when I'm young. I like of course it made everyone really sad, but I wasn't thinking about it too much. And I think that's the problem now, I think, about moving back to Canada. I think how many people would be sad if I left. And that also makes me sad too.
Yeah. Yeah, the longer that you stay in another place, the more that you have a life kind of split between places, right? And then
Yeah.
it gets harder to, excuse me, it gets harder to bring it like back together. You can't, like you're always in two places, I think. Yeah, which I guess is enriching in one way, but does come with sadness on the other side.
Yeah, definitely. I think anyone who lives abroad can relate to feeling like your heart's in two places at once at always, and your family, if you're close with your family, it's always going to be really hard to be away from them, but there's always that sacrifice that you when you're abroad, and how you're making yourself better and getting all this life experience and stuff like that, but at the same time you're like, okay, have I had enough life experience now? Like, should I just go back to my family and use that life experience and provide more value from where I'm from? So I have these moments all the time where I'm like, okay, it's enough now. I think I've built enough character. It's time to go back home to Canada.
Yeah, I can relate. I
But that's
do.
one reason why I wanted to be self-employed. When I was in event management, I thought one day I'll be self employed and I'm going to be a high level event marketing consultant. I'll have clients around the world and I can live in Canada, I can live in Germany. So that was my like end goal, but it worked out differently, that I'm now doing something else which gives me this lifestyle, and practically retired from event management. I mean, other than a few clients, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And thinking of others that might not be feeling as resilient as they would like to, what would you tell them? Like, how do you build that resilience?
It's pushing your boundaries all the time, I'd have to think. And I think, as I said a few times, I don't know, I think another podcast, can't remember which one, but a lot of people get frustrated in their first year, first 2 years of coming to Germany, because they think they're failing, they don't have a good job yet, and they don't have good friends, or their relationship is suffering, because it's a huge transition period. Um, but I don't think I had everything I wanted until like at least 4 years into living in Germany. Like, my job and everything really sucked when I first moved here. I was underpaid. It was really bad conditions. My friends, I had one or two friends who were mainly friends from my previous boyfriend's friends, so I was dependent on him all the time for social life, and I hated this. But I knew it was going to get better. And I remember my first post in, like, I don't know what Facebook group it was, but I said like, hey, I'm new in Hamburg. Any girls want to meet up? Just get some drinks. And it was just so scary just doing that. And I met the girls, and actually one or two of the girls I still keep in touch with, and one is one of my really close friends now. And eventually we just kind of built our own group. We went to different meetups and kind of just picked people, and then we have this group of friends now. We've been friends for almost 10 years in Hamburg. And it's funny, like, we're basically family now because we've just been friends for so long. But it took me a while to actually make those friends and get this community. And that's exactly why I started BBA, because I wanted to make it easier for women to find people who have the same like goals and objectives in Germany as they do.
Yeah, yeah, that's powerful. I agree with 4 years. Like, I'm just over 4 years now, and I am just starting to feel like, okay, now everything's coming together. It takes
Yeah.
time.
That's why I say, like, the also it's really hard on relationships, and I could talk about this in a whole podcast, I think. But when you're moving to another country and the person in that country is going to be like your main, not supporter, but like you're going to live with them, or you're going to depend highly on them, they become almost like a parent really quick, because of course you're in a relationship with them, but there's only so much you could do, that they help you in so many ways, and this stresses relationships. And I've seen many relationships fail because of this, because the sexiness is gone when you're just someone's like parent and have to do all the bureaucracy for them and translate everything. And um, this can be really hard. But there also has to be a lot of compromising and stuff like this too. One of my biggest mistakes, I think, in my previous relationship was that I never really talked to them about the future and how I saw that, and we had very different ways of seeing the future. Not being together or marriage or kids and stuff like that, but it was more like, oh, I only want to be in Germany for 4 or 5 years, and then we're going to go to Canada. And then he was always like, no, I don't want to move to Canada. And I always think he would change his mind. And it was always in the back of my head because it was always like, I want to move back to Canada. And I would bring this up all the time and it would never change. And I hear this in a lot of relationships that there's no compromise when it comes like women or men move to another country for someone. And then they're like, well, you're here. We'll have our life here now. And they don't really think of like the sacrifice they gave away. Because I remember my ex saying, well, then I would have to leave my mom and my dad. I'm like, oh, what? Wow. How sucky is that? You're far away from your parents. It was just
Yeah.
like, their world or no world. And I think this is something that's really important when you're building a relationship with someone abroad, is that you have to put two worlds together and make sacrifices and compromises together.
Yes, 100%. I think I agree with everything that you just said. It is definitely challenging.
Yes.
And important to talk about it because I think often people feel like it is a hard thing to be able to talk about the strain that it does put on relationships. But
Oh,
it's
yeah.
important, and I didn't like for me anyway. Like it was for me, it was about really like focusing on how can I look after myself and be everything I need to be okay for myself in order to not be able to not put so much pressure on that relationship.
Yeah, and of course, things like learning the language and stuff like this helps. And that's, I think, in any country you move to, you should at least have a intermediate or advanced beginner understanding of a language eventually, because it's just helps so much. Honestly, I remember sitting with my ex's family at Kaffee and Kuchen site and not understanding a word what was going on and being bored out of my mind. I was literally counting leaves on the plants because I was just like, I'm just sitting here. I have to sit here for another hour and a half while they chit chat, and I hated this so much. Now I can participate now, which is great. Still, sometimes it's hard, but these things will just help you integrate so much better. Even though, yeah, learning German really sucks.
It sucks, but I agree. It's like you have to. It feels so small to not be able to fully participate in what's happening around you and then to be able to show up. I mean, it's never going to feel like your mother tongue, right? But to be able to show up and understand and contribute a little bit makes such a massive difference.
Yeah, and I also really hated going to parties with my ex's friends, or even now my current boyfriend's friends, and everyone having to switch to English all the time. You just feel like you the disability, and like no one really wants to speak English, but they do it because you're around, and it's
Yes.
annoying. And I hate that feeling. Of course, I have people do switch to English with me all the time because they actually like speaking English, but I just hated that feeling where just like, oh, Hannah's here, now we have to speak English. Like, yeah, that was it's not fun.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I think that like taking that step, there's learning it, learning the paperwork, but then actually taking that step to trust yourself and to start speaking in a group setting, like that's hard. But it
Yeah,
gets
it's
easier the
still
more you
hard
do
for me all the time. I'm still quite antisocial when I'm in German
it.
situations, but at least I can understand the gist of things now and like participate when I want to, rather than just being like completely like, I don't know what's going on. But 1-to-1 German, I'm fine, or 1 to 2 or 3 people. But in a group or a party situation where there's so many voices and back and forth, it's yeah, still things go over my head.
Yeah, I've got really good at like just being okay with that and knowing that like I can do a certain amount, and then when it gets too much, it gets too much, and that's okay.
Yes, my boyfriend Dennis now, when I go to his family gatherings, he's just like, just come for 1 hour and then you can go hide. And then I sit there and I do my best. I participate in the conversation and then I like, okay, I'm gonna go take a nap. Bye.
Yeah, I love it. You got to look after yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looking back at your journey, is there anything that you would do differently if you were to go through it again?
Definitely. I think I would have had more serious conversations with my former partner about, as I said before, about our future and about serious topics, because there was so much. I think maybe it wouldn't have lasted as long as we was because I was maybe in denial of his views and thought they would always change and stuff, and I would never bring it up because I was afraid of his opinion. So having those serious conversations with if you're moving abroad for someone, um, about how you envision the future, how do you envision like spending time with each other's family, how often do we go home, how often do you come here, those things were so important. I completely missed because I was 24 and was not wise. I think also when it comes to your job and stuff, don't sell yourself short just because you're an immigrant or an expat. Your knowledge and experience is worth money. Just because you don't speak German doesn't mean you should be underpaid. And coming being out of self-employment, now I'm self-employed. I control my income, which is really nice. But being employed by corporate international companies, they will take advantage of you if you let them. And I know many people who have been underpaid, under 40K salaries are just not uh, easy in Hamburg, maybe other cities, but I think, yeah, in the group chats, I see so many women being underpaid or because of just they're an immigrant or don't speak German, but they're so knowledgeable and bring so much value in other ways. Just, yeah, this is something that I think people need to be more aware of.
I think that's powerful. Um, it's something that I'm really passionate as well about, like helping people to really understand what their strengths are. So I think to be able to communicate those, right? If there's like a deficit in language, for example, that's one thing, but then there's so much else that people can bring to a role, but you have to know what that is in order to be able to communicate it and to like actually spend time to understand who you are and what strengths you have and the value you bring. I think is really useful.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. You have multiple work passions. You've talked about them a little bit already. You've got a few different things going on. Um, but what kind of role do you think this entrepreneurial path that you've taken has had in building your life here? Like this ability to kind of pull on your interests and build a life for yourself, and the experience then you've had of life in Germany. Does that make sense? That was a lot of words.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how to answer it best. Is I think now that I have like a wealth of experience in this country, that's what makes maybe my content unique and stuff. Is that I'm not coming from freshly here and having to figure out everything myself, as I can provide a lot of value as self-employed in multiple areas. Like now I have over 5 years in content creation. This is actually now a really good skill. I can talk about so many topics when it comes to moving Germany and help people there. And in events as well, like bringing people together has always been my passion. And I started music bingo with Shayna, my friend Shayna, and I realized like music bingo is fun and it's a fun, singing and dancing and everyone's having a good time. And I just realized when they're like, this is actually what I love, like actually bringing people together and having fun together and help people make friends, like pays off not only in, I mean, their income is never that great, but it pays off in other ways too, what I'm trying to say. And like, that's mainly what I love to do.
Mm. I'm wondering, like, this idea of sense of belonging comes to my mind when you talk about that, like singing and dancing together and being together. It's like
Yeah.
you're building community and you're building like a sense of I belong here and I have people that I connect to.
Exactly. And I think as an international abroad, it's really hard to have this feeling of belonging. For, many people who move abroad, they instantly want to find people from their home country because it gives them a sense of belonging. But I had it in the past where, people from Canada, you would meet them at events and stuff. And I always ask myself, they're Canadian. We have that in common. Yes. We have some, shared values for being Canadian. But I ask myself, if I was in Canada, would I be friends with these people? Like, some of them not. It was other, you have to find your group in other ways too, not just based on your nationality or your mother tongue.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's important, like to find people that you align with in terms of your values and the things that you like doing. I also find it really interesting living abroad and meeting like people that I would never have come across if I
Yeah.
was living at home because they are so different to me. That's also fascinating. So to be able to embrace that as well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I once met someone, a Canadian from Quebec, and then I was like, "Oh, Hannah, I met a Canadian from Quebec. You guys should meet up." And I'm like, "Well, I think we're already really different." I'm sure they're nice, but like I'm from BC, they're from Quebec. Like we don't have much in common other than we have a Canadian citizenship.
Yeah. Yeah. Strong. Protect your time. Yes. Okay. Is there anything that you want to bring to the attention of listeners that you're offering or that you think they might benefit from?
Of course. So if you're listening, you can definitely join our events at BBA, or specifically if you're a woman abroad in Germany, or even a German abroad in Germany, if that makes sense. Like many Germans join our events who lived abroad and moved back to Germany and want to still be part of the international community. We'd love to see you there. And yeah.
Do you want to give just a little bit of an outline, like what we haven't talked a lot about exactly what BBA is, who it's for, what these kind of events are, just so
Yeah,
people get an
so
idea.
of course, many people even ask me what BBA means, and it's hard. It's a hard question because BBA was originally called Business Babes Abroad, but then we quickly did not like that name anymore, just with the whole babes and stuff like this. It can be degrading. Um, so we still like the fact that people said, "Oh, you're going to the BBA event," and it was catchy. And then there's other groups which also use acronyms in their names. So we wanted to keep BBA, but we didn't know how. So we thought, what does this mean? What could it mean? And so we came like with a few different words, like be bold abroad, be beautiful abroad, be balanced abroad, be boundless abroad. And we couldn't pick any of them. So we decided to have them all. That's what's the value of our community, is that, it's a woman who they see their potential, they're ambitious, they're life loving, they value community, they value friendship. And that's kind of like our values at BBA and our events and in our communities and stuff like this. So yeah.
Awesome. And I recommend them. They're a lot of fun, and I've met some really lovely people there.
Yeah.
And they're in Hamburg, but they're also in some other cities, right?
Yeah, we have WhatsApp groups in many different regions in Germany, and we have the friendship table, which is a matchmaking dinner series currently in Frankfurt, Munich, and Hamburg.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, and then just to wrap it up, I'm conscious of time. I would love to know if you've got one thing you want to leave the audience with, something that you could share with them, maybe if they're early on in their journey in Germany, and a little piece of advice.
Yeah, a little piece of advice, I think I said this before, is just don't give up. Don't sweat the small stuff, even though the small stuff may feel big. In the end, it's going to be small stuff. Things like bureaucracy and things like this are hard, and finding friends and stuff is hard. If you just keep it up and don't get too frustrated, don't get too focused on all the bad of Germany, like the difference. There's so many culture shocks when you come here, but like if you just only try to see the bad and the frustrating things, you're not going to like it here. But there's so many other good things that will come.
Yeah, I love that. This reframe is a beautiful way to end. Thank you so much for your time, Hannah. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. We talk soon.
Talk soon.